Okay, let's dive right in. For most leaders, when you hear the word conflict, it kind of triggers a threat response, right? It's something you want to avoid or smooth over or just push down at all costs. But here's the thing. In high-performing organizations, the really elite teams, they see it completely differently. They don't see conflict as a liability at all. They see it as a massive leadership advantage. And let's be crystal clear on this, because this is where so many company cultures just get it wrong. The real problem isn't the disagreement itself. Nope, it's the avoidance of that disagreement. Because look, silence isn't neutral. When you see a standard being missed and you do nothing, you're not keeping the peace. You're actually giving everyone permission for that standard to drop. So this is the fundamental reframe we're talking about here. What if you just stopped treating tension like it's some kind of disruption and started seeing it as a strategic tool, a mechanism really, for forging clarity, building real trust, and ultimately driving those championship-level results? To really grasp the power of that question, we first need to get honest about the costs of doing what everyone else does. See, the real problem with conflict isn't the argument itself, it's the invisible tax that avoidance puts on your entire organization. First up, you get culture rot. When those uncomfortable conversations are constantly avoided, poor standards are just allowed to fester. People see what's being tolerated, and that cultural bar gets lowered for everybody. It's the slow, quiet erosion of the very standards you claim to have. Next, avoiding conflict creates this hidden tension. You know that feeling. It's the energy that gets drained into office politics, frustration, and resentment. Issues that should be out on the table get forced underground, where they just simmer and create this toxic undercurrent of mistrust and passive-aggressive behavior. And finally, all of this, it leads to misalignment. When teams don't have the psychological safety to disagree and debate, they don't actually get aligned. They just kind of drift. Small gaps in understanding widen into these massive canyons in execution, all because that initial tension was never dealt with. So here's the bottom line. A culture that runs from conflict is a culture that is running from reality. And you simply cannot build sustainable, high-level performance on a foundation of avoidance and fiction. You need the truth. And productive conflict? Well, that's the path to get there. So, if avoidance is the problem, what's the solution? This is where we introduce the Catalyst framework. And listen, this isn't some soft skill for having nice little chats. It's a strategic system for turning tension into a high-octane performance engine. The entire framework is built on this one core idea. Productive conflict isn't chaos, it's constructive tension, and it's applied with purpose. It's not about emotional reactions. It's about intentional, structured engagement designed to make everyone and every idea that much sharper. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Every single time tension shows up, a team is basically standing at a fork in the road. They can go down that default reactive path, or they can choose the intentional high-performance path. And this slide just lays out those two journeys perfectly. On the left, you've got the default path, the reactive cycle. That's where tension is treated like a disruption. It leads to people either exploding or avoiding, communication is totally unstructured, and it all ends in blame. But look at the high-performance path on the right. That's the catalyst flow. It reframes tension as a signal, as an opportunity. The process becomes structured and courageous, leading not to blame, but to alignment, trust, and real forward momentum. So the big question is, how do you actually stay on that high-performance path? Well, this is where the framework becomes a repeatable process. It's not just a mindset, it's a playbook that leaders and their teams can actually run again and again. As you can see here, the framework provides 7 specific plays to turn that conflict into collaboration. Now, this isn't just some random list. It's an elegant, strategic sequence. It starts with foundational moves like pause to protect respect, to kind of de-escalate the emotion, and separate person from problem to focus on the issue, not the individual. Then it moves through these really collaborative plays like redefine the win together, before closing with solid commitments. The whole process is designed to move a team from a heated debate to a collaborative design session. And these plays are powered by some simple but incredibly powerful tools. For example, reset questions like, what's the real issue here? Or what's the one outcome we both want? Those can instantly cut through all the noise. The SBI framework gives you a really clear, non-confrontational way to give feedback by focusing on the situation, the specific behavior, and the impact it had. Other tools, like red-green zones, help teams see when a conversation is being productive versus when it's becoming destructive. These aren't complicated theories. They are practical tools for real moments of pressure. Now we get to the ultimate payoff. Mastering conflict isn't just about having healthier meetings. It's about building an unshakable competitive advantage, one that your rivals just can't replicate. Think about it. When your culture normalizes healthy disagreement, you unlock two of the most valuable assets in business today: speed and innovation. Speed, because issues get surfaced and solved quickly, not left to fester for weeks. And innovation, because the best ideas, well, they only emerge when they're challenged and debated and refined through that productive friction. This creates this really powerful performance loop. Conflict brings that hidden tension to the surface. Facing that tension leads to incredible clarity on standards and goals. That shared clarity builds profound trust. And that trust, well, that becomes the foundation that just compounds performance over time. Every single resolved conflict raises the team's baseline, making them even stronger for the next challenge. And really, that's what it all comes down to. The best of the best. They don't see conflict as something to be afraid of. They see it as the forge where champions are made. They understand that pressure, when you harness it correctly, is what creates resilience, alignment, and true greatness. This is the ultimate goal: to transform the very thing most organizations see as a threat and turn it into your team's most powerful strategic weapon for winning. And that leaves us with one final question for you to really think about. Right now, in your team, in your organization, is tension a source of drag and decay, or is it the engine that's driving you forward? The choice really is yours.